Alright, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333 and welcome back to Heartsvine for the New Order, Last Days of Europe as Germany, the Greater German Reich. Now, in the last video, someone tried to kill Hitler. Old Hitler. For whatever reason. Maybe it's because, might be because of all the genocide, or, the destruction of modern nation states, or a couple reasons why. I'm not sure which one. But, yeah. So needless to say, we kind of figured shit, we kind of got to, we need an end game here, in case Hitler does end up dying. So he's got on ahead and named Albert Speer, is it Speer or Speer? I don't know, probably just Speer, as his successor. Now, Speer has been labeled the Reformer. With the Führer's proclamation of Reich Minister Albert Speer as successor, public opinion has been left divided. While with many doubting Speer's abilities to govern, whilst others are enthusiastic of potential change in the Reich. A highly controversial choice, Speer, I think it's because I'm used to German having like the sh, or like SCH, like Schmidt. I think it's just Speer, has all but alienated himself from the upper echelons of the state through a strong advocation of reformist policies in the Reich designed to steer the troubled nation towards a possible prosperous future. Despite his close-up friendship with the Führer, this remains an uphill battle for the architect of Germania. So it's gonna be rough, but hopefully we can figure something out, you know? So we're going to start off by reeling in the Orpo. With the student-led protests intensifying over the initial months of 1962, the Orpo is beginning to resort to more desperately aggressive acts of law enforcement as the students have become more violent and fierce. With the situation quickly descending into utter chaos, with a potentially fatal clash between the students and Orpo being more likely than ever, Speer has ordered the Orpo to be reeled in, noting its ability to combat the students. So a bit more stability. We're going to lose some combat command power. Not that we have much to begin with anyway, but, you know. We'll wait and see what happens, I guess. So we have some decisions available. This is a power struggle. In the aftermath of the recent assassination attempt on the Führer's life, he has seen fit to name his official successor and designate upon him the matters of state that he and his age cannot perform. As the Führer's condition worsens, it is almost assured that the responsibilities of the most high office will pass more and more to his successor. Yet Hitler's chosen is not alone. 3 other men vie for power of the Führer, and their webs of influence have been spun far and deep. The German people might not know it, but within the halls of a Volkshall, a silent war over the future of Germany rages. Victory in this conflict may bring advantage were this situation to further deteriorate. Influence points may be spent on several buffs for our faction. However, it would be unwise to spend it all, as once our remaining influence points could affect our starting position if the worst comes to the worst. So Hitler's health is currently is pretty solid right now. Bormann has some moderate power. Then we're tied with Speer for still moderate power. Reinhardt has minuscule power, but they all are working on it, boosting on all of that. And so they'll be able to increase their influence, and they'll be able to do stuff with their newly gained influence. So we'll just, it's more of a, it's a race against time sort of deal. We just gotta wait and fudge, I just spilled my Rockstar a little bit. It didn't get on any important electronics, just my Jones soda caps. This video is still not sponsored by Jones, by the way. I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing. Not sponsoring a video where I'm playing as Nazi Germany. I don't know what. Just weak fucking. I tell you, it's the fucking liberals. Not forcing Jones not to support content where we're playing as actual Nazis. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. Damn, are we playing Stabby? Never mind. Albert Speer stood by the window as Adolf shuffled into the room, muttering to himself. Those large blue eyes settled on Speer's face, and he smiled, shuffling over to join his friend with sunlight. He suddenly hailed Speer with a jovial croak, lifting his trembling arm in salute. The action threw him off balance, and he stumbled forwards with a groan. Speer instinctively grabbed the old man's shoulders and steadied him carefully. "Herr Hitler," Speer said with a sad smile. "You must be careful, Adolf. I did not come here to see you collapse from an old joke. I came to give my humble gratitude as being named your successor." His tone turned serious. "I wish to see the German Reich last 1,000 years, but I don't think that this can be achieved without a serious change in policy. Göring has called me a radical, and as if he actually has any convictions. That man would stuff his cabinet with Jews if it meant a flush cluster of medals and a fancy new outfit. As for Bormann... Bormann, that little balding weasel!" Hitler certainly spat, his face contorting an angle. "Martin and Hermann, they want everything. They don't realize I cannot die!" The Führer glared at his economic minister with feverish eyes. "Hitler is Germany, und Deutschland ist Hitler! If I die, the Juden will descend upon our carcasses like vultures." An eruption of rasping coughs exploded from his throat, racking his whole body. He gripped Speer's shoulders intensely, his face growing redder by the second. The door suddenly burst open, and a cluster of the Führer's personal guards streamed into the room. Rokas Misch held onto the Führer's arm and pulled him to the door, glancing at Speer in distrust. Before Speer could say anything, his old friend had been taken away. His bemused silence was punctuated only by the incessant ticking of a clock. Tick-tock. We lose some stability and Hitler's condition worsens. That's not the best. Okay, he's in fair health now. His health's okay. It's just it's all going downhill, you know. Oh, it looks like we can recruit a spy. I will go with, Adolf Roll. Why not? Intelligence Agency. We have the Abwehr. I guess let's work on our cryptology, modernize our departments. Ooh. As 1962 began to draw on and the government of the Reich remains locked in slow stagnation, the protests by student groups around the nation about slavery, the still failed economy, the constant border war in the Reich Commissariats, about the fear of war, about 1,000 other things raged on. With nearly 1 million students constantly marching, protesting, and disrupting business, and countless others joining them, the Reich seemed completely unable to cope with the crisis. While many in the government demand harsher action, no one knows what real harsh action they can take to a movement so large and so disorganized. While threats have been made against the protesters, they remain undeterred. As their numbers swell, with no central authority, there is no head for the government to cut off. With the Orpo so disorganized and with so many paramilitary groups trying to keep pace, it has been a wonder the situation has yet to explode. At least this was the situation until a small army of protesters began getting rowdy with a group of Orpo officers in Aachen. And a small group of riot officers decided to open fire up the city's armory and quell the unrest forcefully. What? Wait, don't. Shit. Der Tag des Verrats is what they're calling it. The day of betrayal. Betrayal against the people of the Reich by their leaders, their police, their military, by fucking everyone. Police in Aachen took it upon themselves to open fire on a crowd of teenagers who had started a small riot outside of a local Orpo station, and what started as a police shooting has sparked a massive riot across the city. What does that remind you guys of? Fuck. Aachen is now burning as Orpo units there struggle to hold their lines against furious crowds of rioters, and with the military stepping in and declaring martial law and Orpo units ordered to stand down, large sections of the city have been left to the mob. The action has been limited to Aachen, with both protesters and overzealous Orpo officers across the country taking up arms and inspiration. Most of the largest cities of the Reich now look like a war zone, with condemnation of protest and fellowship reaching as far as Moscovian. Okay, for the sake of the Führer, we gotta remain calm. We'll lose some PP, but, you know, what are you gonna do? Ow. So we can, right now we can divert some infantry equipment, so we'll get some bonus infantry weapons for our side. I'll hold off for now, keep getting some influence. Just have to keep an eye on what the other side does, I guess, too. See what ends up happening. I'm gonna change what's on my other tab. Had one of my lectures pulled up. It's like a pre-recorded Zoom type deal, and my human sexuality teacher was just looking at me this whole time, and it got too weird for me. Ooh, the Great Bulgarian Game. Bulgaria, since the closing days of the Second World War, has been closely linked to Germany and their pact. This wasn't an issue for Bulgaria and was even profitable for the two for nearly a decade. The great market crash of the 50s changed everything, however. So closely tied to the German economy, it was only natural that the Bulgarian markets followed suit. Bulgaria very nearly left the pact. The Germans, exerting the rest of their influence they had in the region, managed to threaten, bribe, and call in enough favors to pack the Bulgarian administration with pro-German ministers. To keep the government under close watch, the Germans shortly after deployed a garrison to Sofia itself to help keep the peace during the turmoil. 10 years later, and one still sees German boots patrolling the capital. Things are perhaps changing, however. The Bulgarian government is perhaps ripe to be overthrown. Prime Minister Gabrovsky, well known to be in German hands, recently died in a car accident. Rumors surrounds his death, but whether he was assassinated or truly did die in a tragic accident means nothing. His death has given the Underground Fatherland Front the hope they need to begin acting against pro-German elements in the country. As Italian influence against us attempts to snake their way into the country, the Reich has begun to crack down on what they see as dissident activity. Only time will tell what will result from the two's meddling in Bulgaria. And so the great game begins. So this opens up a pretty fun little game. Bulgaria, Hungary, Serbia, Romania, and France. Ever since Italy and the Reich split from each other, these nations have been the target of a constant diplomatic game of influence, a game that continues to this day. The Great Game is played in 5 rounds, and the best of 5 wins, not unlike the game Sette e Mezzo. Both the Italian and German diplomats will face a series of decisions or cards in each round, starting from a random base of diplomatic effort. In the ever-shifting game, the goal is to hit diplomatic success, represented by the value of 10, with the Germans represented by the left-hand card, and the Italians the right-hand card. However, the act of diplomacy is a fickle thing. Push too hard and over 10, and the round is lost. If both parties go over and stay below 10, then the higher value wins. An equal effort means a draw. Have the majority of the issues stalemate in the diplomatic battle, and the target might decide that neutrality is the better choice. So, it's sort of, kind of vaguely like blackjack, in that you just gotta make sure that, we're left side. We have to make sure that we get higher than them, but not over 10. So, we can send over some additional guards. Bulgaria has a crippling lack of manpower. Sending some guards to increase our garrison presence would greatly increase our influence in the region. Let's do it. We'll lose a bit of manpower. We got plenty of that to go around. We have 60 days to try to improve operational security in Bulgaria. If we get 10 or a higher value than the Italians, assuming they don't get 10, if we also get 10, we win the round. If they get 10 or a higher value than us while staying under 10, they win. If we get the same value, draw. If we both get over 10, draw. Ooh. The Reich is a granitic edifice, firmly under the Führer's control, and utterly dedicated to the glorification of the German people and National Socialism. That's what the propaganda tells, but in truth, large cracks run through the entire facade of a seemingly powerful giant. Both inside and outside the administration, weak voices ask for change, for the form, anything, they say, to stave off the inevitable collapse of Germany's crumbling empire. Among the choir of whispers, four manage to stand out, barely audible in the blaring propaganda. They are the Gang of Four. Kurt Georg Kissinger is a prominent member of the Nazi Party with deep connection to many organs within the Reich. While charismatic and cautious, his reformist views didn't endear him to the conservative leadership. Ludwig Erhard is an extremely respected, outside of Germany that is, economist, who's already predicted the economic collapse. Of course, in a modern version of Cassandra's tale, no one listened to him until it was too late, and his vehement criticism earned him many enemies. Helmut Schmidt is an expert diplomat who joined the Nazi Party mainly to cover the fact that he hates National Socialism with a vengeance. His ties to the American business would greatly help Germany, if anyone cared to listen to his advice. Henning von Tresckow hails from the ancient Prussian warrior nobility, and is, as expected, a general in the Heer. Disgusted with the state of the Wehrmacht, he wants to reform it along the old Prussian standards, which made him not exactly a friend of the high hierarchies. Each an expert in his own field, the members of this small group of reformers have put themselves under the wing of Albert Speer to avoid persecution, even though their relationship with their patron aren't always as idyllic as they would like, mainly because, unlike them, Speer is a convicted Nazist. I don't know. They all depend on each other to protect themselves from the SS and to plan Germany's future, so it might be better than the present. After all, Germany needs to be saved from itself. So, the Gang of Four, they're the, I guess a little bit of spoilers, so, if you don't want to listen, skip ahead a bit. The Gang of Four is the real pushes of reform, like, real notable, like, democratic reform in Speer's Germany. Speer wants reform, but it's more, how do I put it? It's more of a, realpolitik view of things, mixed with Nazism, of course, because, you know, Albert Speer was one of the main guys behind the Holocaust. The Gang of Four actually want, like, real reforms, you know, minority rights, all that shit. Speer, as we find out, he's not necessarily so much into that, but like I said, we'll get into that more later. The cacophony of clinking glass and waves of forced laughter was giving Martin Bormann a headache. Among the 2,000 guests milling around and sitting at tables were a fair amount of diplomats of both German and foreign extraction. He placed the speech notes on top of the podium with sweaty hands, surveying the room in apprehension. The speech was short and simple, admittedly a bit bland. Bormann smiled to himself bitterly. He had never wanted to match the striking visual imagery and acerbic wit of Goebbels' writing. At times like this, he almost missed the lecherous little rat. "Gentlemen," Bormann announced into the microphone, waiting as the blanket of silence gradually fell upon the crowd. "The Führer." He turned to his right and saluted. The guests followed suit, rising to their feet and saluting to various degrees of hastiness. Adolf Hitler shuffled towards the podium and grasped it with two trembling hands. "Recent events may herald a diplomatic shift for the Reich." Hitler's voice quickly faded away. Bormann's blood ran cold as Hitler looked up and highly halted in confusion. "Where's Ernst? He told me he would be here." Bormann strode over to the podium and placed an arm behind the Führer's back, gently leading him away. The old man's body was violently quivering. I think I was at your wedding!" Hitler exclaimed loudly, his rasping voice reverberating throughout the halls. Confused murmurs erupted through the crowd. "Are you still in the SA?" "Forgive me, gentlemen." Walter Hevel exclaimed, swiftly taking the podium as Bormann and Misch led Hitler to the exit. The Führer was accidentally given my speech. Allow me to continue. The real question is, are any of us still in the SA? You see, the Reich's diplomatic progression can be mirrored in some way with the evolution of the SA. Disaster averted? So we lose stability, and Hitler's condition just gets fucking worse. Let's see how he's at now. Man, he's not even in fair condition. He's in poor health. I think the old fart's gonna die soon. Run the Orpo. Let's go ahead and embrace the students. Given the Führer's appointment of Reich Minister Albert Speer as successor, it's only natural that we should attempt to pursue a more friendly policy towards the student protesters. Perhaps by wholeheartedly embracing the student movement, it'll halt the increasingly violent protests that continuously disrupt our major cities. If not, at least it would show that the Führer is a pragmatist, which may endear us to the students. So we'll get some more legitimacy, we'll boost the fascism support, which remember, we are fascists. Not National Socialists, but fascist. And we'll get some more PP, which will help us get out of this massive fucking hole we're stuck in. Yeah, that works with me. So we modernized our departments. Ooh. Goring was pecking at his dinner in Carinal. You should have been satisfied. The food was terrific, Emma was beautiful as always, and while those priceless paintings had not yet lost their glamour. Given how many he had collected since the war, he really should have been enjoying himself, if not for this guest. What we need is conquest. The thing that made us the masters of Europe in the first place. Day by day, our grasp on Europe grows ever more tenuous, and I shudder to think about what might happen once our great Führer dies. That was at least what Otto Ernst Bremer. Oh, how Goring detested the angry little man. Goring knew that he was one of the key architects for the suicidal war plans. That I can tell you with great certainty, that the last few days of stewardship under our great Führer have reaped nothing but dividends. I mean, we were the first to get a man on the moon. I think that there are still some years left in our Third Reich. After all, we are not even close to the 1000th year. Am I not right, Reich Marshal Goring? Wilhelm Stuckart was a longtime friend, supporter, and ardent National Socialist. As far as he knew, Europe was theirs, and the future of the Reich was no longer about further conquest. Goring looked at Schorner's lackey before returning his gaze towards Wilhelm Stuckart. Before he had a chance to answer, the militarist interrupted him and condemned the weak-willed bureaucrat's free anemic economy. Stuckart, of course, did not take it sitting down and leapt up in indignation to begin what would be a shouting match between him and the ardent Schornerite. Goring excused himself from the meal to no one's notice. It would have been a waste to sign away his great popularity with the likes of Schorner and his band of merry madmen. No, destiny awaited. Surely the successor would be rather eager to enlist the help of none other than Hermann Goring himself. Yes, there was much work to be done as soon as he could calm the two idiots down to finish dinner. How long will those two argue? Shiza. It's giving me a headache. You have U.S. Forces Iceland rolling over the Faroe Islands. You'll love to see it. Dear Reich Minister Speer, as Reich Marshal, I must congratulate you on becoming the chosen successor of our greater German Reich. To celebrate this historical moment, I wish to extend a cordial invitation to a dinner at Carinal. I've been told that you are a man of expensive taste, and on that front I believe that Carinal is second to none. I also have heard that you are a man of many ideas and reforms, one who wishes to bring the Reich to new heights. Although my past exploits were one of a military kind, one thing I've learned in my time as a politician is this. One can never have too many men to keep the peace when less imaginative minds wish to keep things the way they were. For such fiends, I can only recommend the bayonet. I understand that your gang of four would be your main advisor, but perhaps there is room for one more. My popular support and military prowess would no doubt show up further support for your cause, and there is no other government that I would rather serve under than yours. Sincerely, Reich Marshal Hermann Göring. Oh, okay. So we about to get Göring on our side? We aren't. Probably not, at least. So we'll buy some connect. Ooh. Among the many agencies dedicated to rooting out any danger to the Reich's integrity and continued supremacy, none holds so much power as the Abwehr. At the top of such a large and convoluted agency, with tendrils digging deep into all offices and bureaus of the equally large German administration, a single man sits uncontested. His power is enough that he can order death without having to ask for permission, and even the SS must tread carefully within his reach. Reinhard Gehlen, also known as Agent Kleiner Fuchs, is a secretive man, a quality that goes very well with his role. Had it not been so, he would have long since been dead. With cunning and skill, Gehlen rose through the ranks of the Abwehr, making important allies and equally important enemies. But no friends. It's difficult being friends with someone who holds enough evidence against you to send you to concentration camps for the rest of your life. Among the countless agents working under him, one stands out. One he has taken the slightest bit of attachment for. Gerhard Wessel, known in the field as Agent Verflittes Kitzen, is a capable officer hailing from the Wehrmacht. Has been Gehlen's protege for almost a decade, ever since he discovered his ability with analyzing large amounts of complex data and quickly devising plans and countermeasures. Well, not the best field agent, something which Gehlen tries every day to change. Wessel possesses both competence and loyalty, a very rare combination of qualities these days. In the world of shadows, the one who rules over them is in charge, and in the Reich all shadows, be they large or slim, gray or pitch black, swear their allegiance to Agent Kleiner Fuchs. Always use your cover names, it will save you. Okay, so we're gonna get... Alright. Alright, we only have 4, Italy has 6. Albert Speer thought it was amusing how informal and relaxed the letter was after reading and rereading it. The letter barely seemed the type of correspondence that could have had far-reaching consequences on the Reich. Speer was to inherit and manage going forward. For a moment it was tempting. Göring was immediate darling, and also someone who would no doubt move a lot of fence-sitters toward his side, but everything else about him would be more trouble than he was worth. Primarily, his very nature would create an imbalance. In the already fragile game on the floor, his old saber-rattling reputation would put him at odds with Schmidt, and his terrible economic ideals would no doubt butt heads with Erhard. Göring, too, was a man who enjoyed the spotlight and probably tried to steal it from old silver-tongued Kissinger. And, well, Treschow. Speer, Treschow is waiting in the lobby to see you. Speak of the devil. Oh, send him in. Bitte. Speer had made up his mind by now. Treschow would be the one to handle this. Göring and Treschow were never amicable in the first place. Perhaps Schorner would enjoy knowing about this also. Of course, the details could all be handled in due time. When Treschow opened the door, he was surprised that Speer had been standing up and waiting for him, seeming more animated than his usual self. For once, perhaps, they may yet agree upon something. A pity. I would have enjoyed a trip to Karenhall. Oh, well, what are you gonna do? Not much, I can tell you that much. Ah. Today's Sunday, but tomorrow is, oh shit. Tomorrow is, one of those holidays where you don't have to go to school. So I don't have school or work, which is nice. Göring strolled out of his office with a sigh. His game had failed. He was wedded to the militarists for now. The letter to the successor was leaked, and Schorner came calling about his betrayal. Göring had lied to him, and the conservatives had sent the letter without his knowledge and set up the meeting. By a stroke of luck, Schorner believed him, but Göring knew that Naumann wouldn't. It wasn't as if he didn't try, explaining to the Reich minister how the militarists had done that on his behalf. After all they'd been through, Goring had thought there would be some quotable last words on either side, but Naumann didn't even manage to finish his sentence before hanging up on Goring in exasperation and disbelief. In one phone call, his conservative support had died. As he strolled through Cairn Hall's art section, one painting caught his eye. It was one of Napoleon. He was sinking into his chair, defeated. There was no commanding gaze, no passionate look. It was a blank stare towards nothingness. Initially, it was there as a matter of pride. Nowadays, who, after all, was the master of Europe? The Führer's was not French, let alone one called Napoleon. However, now Goring looked at his painting with a new sense of empathy. If Schorner and his warplanes were successful, he would no doubt go down in history as one greater than Napoleon. But Goring knew deep down he was no Napoleon. Even with the greatness of the Reich, the latter warplanes would be near impossible to achieve. One day, when his armies faltered and his people groaned, he wondered if someone would ever make a painting of him. Lies, failure, and disappointment. Damn, way to make me feel bad for Hermann fucking Goring game. GG. I'll read one more little event, I guess. Today, as has happened on every 28th of March since that fateful day, the Reich remembers Joseph Goebbels. As time passes, many say the memory fades, but none in the Reich can forget the tragic and heroic figure that stood with the Führer until his dying moments. As he has every year, Hitler himself gave a speech, and while his hands shook, he sometimes stumbled on the words. They were nevertheless as emotional and powerful as they are every year. Over 1,000 stood at the ceremony outside the Goebbels Denkmal, where Hitler gave his speech from the marble podium in front of the bronze statue of a late great filmmaker. While the 1,000 citizens, soldiers, and dignitaries stood in remembrance for the murdered director, famously and allegedly killed by French partisans almost a decade ago. The most important men of the Reich soon gave speeches. Speer, Goring, and Bormann all talked of the tears they shed at the news of their friend's death, of the happiness they felt when his murderers were caught, and now they will never forget the great works of art he had produced for the Reich. While Reinhard Heydrich, representing both himself and Heinrich Himmler, was not able to make the memorial, was not invited to give a speech, he did leave a cadre of 100 SS officers to lay flowers upon the base of the statue. The day ended with a slight bit of rain, a healthy reminder of the great friendship that was terribly ended. Bedenktasende. Well, I'm gonna have to call it here, folks. Thank you as always for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, anything of the sort, go ahead and leave in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get, and I appreciate any all feedback you kind folks might have for me. If you want to send a few bucks my way, I have a Patreon down below. You can check that out. If you want to chat, play games, or just have a fun old time in general, I have a Discord you can also check out down link below. I also have a Twitch if you want to see me film these sort of videos live. And yeah, that's about it for now, folks. Thanks as always for watching. My name has been DB333, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.